Don't throw away cardboard. This simple layering hack builds humus shockingly fast. You know what I see too often in serious gardens? People ripping out cardboard, tossing it in the trash, and thinking it's useless. That's a huge mistake. Cardboard is basically compressed carbon energy, and ignoring it is like throwing money straight into the compost bin, except the compost never gets the boost it needs. The consequence? Soil that's slow to build structure, water that drains poorly, roots that struggle, and plants that never hit their full potential. If you've been frustrated with shallow beds, patchy harvests, or soil that won't retain nutrients, this is exactly why. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button because every week we share practical, high-yield strategies for real gardeners who want results, not just theory. And if you want to monitor your soil and compost progress precisely, check out the 5-in-1 Earth Scout Soil Curb, linked in the description. It's the tool I personally rely on to keep every layer performing perfectly. You're probably overcomplicating soil when it comes to layering cardboard. Most gardeners overthink lasagna gardening, thinking they need dozens of exotic inputs or fancy compost teas. Truth is, the key to fast humus development is layering the right carbon and nitrogen materials in the right thicknesses, and cardboard is your secret weapon. It's dense, uniform, and breaks down predictably when wetted and covered with organic matter. In my experience, even just a half-inch layer of shredded corrugated cardboard under a 1 to 2 inch layer of green material, think kitchen scraps, fresh grass clippings, or chopped leaves, creates a perfect microenvironment for microbes to multiply like crazy. Here's how I do it in small backyard gardens. Start by preparing your cardboard. Strip off any tape or glossy coatings, then cut or tear it into strips that roughly match your bed width. Lay the cardboard flat over the soil surface. If you're dealing with a raised bed, fit the cardboard to the edges so it forms a continuous sheet. Once the cardboard is down, wet it thoroughly so it's damp all the way through. This isn't a sprinkle job. You want it soaked because dry cardboard slows decomposition. On top of that, add your nitrogen-rich green layer. I usually do about 1 inch thick for smaller beds, but for deeper beds or older soil, you can push that to 2 inches. Don't pile too high initially, or you'll risk uneven decomposition and smothered microbes. Now, if you want to scale this up for raised beds or larger plots, here's how I do it. For raised beds, I like to treat each layer a bit like a floor in a building. I start with cardboard, then add a green layer and then a brown layer. Something like dried leaves or straw works well. It's important to alternate the layers, but keep the green layers just a little thinner than the brown ones to avoid any risk of nitrogen burn. For a standard 4 by 8 foot raised bed, I usually use about 6 to 8 sheets of cardboard layered end to end and wetted thoroughly. After that, I add 2 to 3 inches of green material, followed by 3 inches of brown. You just repeat this sequence until you're about 3 to 4 feet tall, or until the bed is full, really. Over the first 3 months, you'll want to water regularly to keep things moist and give the layers a gentle turn or press if the bed starts to settle unevenly. Within 2 to 3 months, that cardboard will be partially decomposed, microbes will be thriving, and the soil will feel noticeably spongy underfoot. Why this works so well even in hydroponic or soilless setups. You might think cardboard has no place in a hydroponic system, but that's not true. When I prep soilless media like cocoa coir or peat blends, I use shredded, pre-soaked cardboard to provide structure and microbially accessible carbon. It stabilizes the root zone, improves aeration and feeds beneficial fungi and bacteria that don't get the same energy from straight coir. I've had hydroponic tomato setups with cardboard-amended substrates produce noticeably stronger root systems and earlier fruiting. The key is soaking the cardboard first and chopping it into smaller pieces so it integrates seamlessly with the media. Too large and it creates pockets, too fine and it mats down. Aim for pieces roughly 1 to 2 inches wide. How to balance carbon and nitrogen for shockingly fast humus. Here's where most fluff advice fails gardeners. People don't measure ratios. I've tested enough beds to know a roughly 2-to-1 ratio of carbon to nitrogen, by volume, not weight, produces the fastest humus without heat spikes that kill microbes. Cardboard is pure carbon, so if your green layer is grass clippings, kitchen scraps or fresh leaves, aim for about double the thickness of green to balance that carbon load. For instance, half an inch of cardboard under an inch of green, covered with 2 inches of brown mulch. That combination builds humus 3 to 4 times faster than just composting kitchen scraps on the soil surface. The tools that make this precise. If you're serious, you need to measure and monitor. I rely on the 5-in-1 Earth Scout Soil Cub to check soil moisture, temperature, and EC at multiple depths. I can see exactly when the cardboard layer is wet enough, when microbial activity is optimal, and whether my nitrogen input is sufficient. You don't need fancy lab equipment, but precise data speeds up results, prevents nitrogen loss, and avoids soggy beds or fungal overgrowth. The link is in the description under Influencers and Associates, and trust me, it's worth it for any serious gardener who cares about measurable results. Why people's humus is slow and how to fix it. Too often gardeners layer cardboard and walk away. Without moisture, microbes stay dormant. Without nitrogen, they starve. Without layering thought, you get anaerobic pockets that smell terrible instead of rich, earthy humus. The fix is simple. Wet the cardboard, layer properly, and check moisture daily for the first week. For raised beds, press the layers gently as they settle. For hydroponic amendments, integrate pre-soaked cardboard uniformly. Minor attention up front avoids months of slow decomposition and patchy soil. My top tips from years of testing. Cut the cardboard to bed width. Always wet thoroughly. Alternate green and brown layers for balance. Monitor moisture with a TDR or soil moisture meter. Don't overcomplicate with exotic inputs. The basics. Outperform miracle compost additives every time. In winter, cover beds with extra straw or leaves to keep the cardboard damp and microbe activity alive. In hydroponics, chop the cardboard finer and integrate it with coir or perlite. Follow these steps, and your beds will have spongy, nutrient-dense humus in a fraction of the usual time. Practical example, full backyard application. In a 20 by 20 foot backyard plot, I use about 20 full sheets of corrugated cardboard laid flat across the soil. That gets about a half-inch carbon layer. I follow with an inch of chopped greens from my kitchen and grass, then 2 inches of brown mulch. I repeat the sequence 2 more times across the plot. Within 8 weeks, the soil is visibly darker, crumbly, and full of worm activity. Moisture retention is much higher. Root penetration is effortless, and when I plant tomatoes or beans, the difference is immediate. This isn't theory, this is what I do every growing season. Cardboard isn't trash, it's fuel. Used correctly, it builds humus fast, improves water retention, feeds microbes, and boosts plant health. It works in raised beds, backyard plots, and hydroponic media alike. Layer carefully, balance your green and brown inputs, monitor moisture, and don't skimp on practical observation. The result is soil that feeds itself, plants that thrive, and harvests that finally match your effort. If you found this useful, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next practical strategy for serious gardeners. Share this video with friends or fellow growers who struggle with slow soil improvement. And remember, if you want precise control over your soil's moisture, temperature, and overall health, check out the 5-in-1 Earth Scout Soil Cub in the description. It's the tool I trust for every bed and every season. Keep growing smart, and I'll see you in the next video.